Professionalism event. My name is Sharon, and I'm one of your student moderators. I'd like to introduce our School of Management Dean, Gerhard.
So we were just joking before the event, right? Because does anybody know my last name? And for those of you who know, can you pronounce my last name? Probably not. It's Apfeltaler, right? So Gerhard Apfeltaler, thank you very much for being here tonight. My name is Austrian, actually, so I speak the former governor's English. It's wonderful that you're all here tonight. I'm pretty sure that all of you, I hope all of you, feel that you're getting a great education in the classroom from your professors. But there's definitely only so much we can do in the classroom. There are things that you can only learn outside by attending events where you meet practitioners and alums, like the ones that we have on the panel tonight. And also the networking, right? And with networking, I not only mean networking with industry experts, with people who have a lot of experience, but also amongst each other, right? The networks that you are forming today, that you have formed over the last 2, 3, or 4 years at Cal Lutheran, those will be networks that will benefit you for life, particularly as you enter the workforce, as you prepare to graduate and leave Cal Lutheran. So thank you very much for being here. Thanks to our panelists for helping us out in fulfilling our educational mission. And also thanks a lot, Gray, Sharon, everybody who was involved in the organization of the event, our staff, of course, also Rosie and Hannah in the back. And enjoy the event and make the most out of it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. We really appreciate just the fact that we're able to do this in the School of Management and be able to have this opportunity to meet professionals. It's really special. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Gray. It's my 4th year here at CLU. I'm a business major, and I would also like to introduce Sharon Sanders right here, as well as Andrea Villaseñor. We'll be kind of moderating the conversation tonight alongside the help of Abby here, Abby Blom, and yeah, let's get this thing rolling. So the Past Professionalism event. Our mission here tonight, we want to inspire students to explore and define their own careers. We want to get you on the right track and knowing maybe what it is to do that you need to be doing now to get to where you want to be. We want to provide an opportunity to engage with industry professionals, these panelists, as well as alums that are at your tables, and they're here to network with you. Like I said, provide a networking opportunity to connect with recent CLU grads, as well as to prepare for the Career Intern Expo that's coming up soon. You guys don't want to hear me talking exactly, so I'm going to let Sharon explain the Menti, because I don't really know how that works.
So we have some interactive questions prepared for the audience. So we would like you guys to either enter the website and then the code, or scan the QR code, which is also on the pamphlets at every table. And so we're going to have questions throughout that you guys can answer. And then, yeah, we're just going to do that. So I'll leave a couple seconds so everyone can scan.
Awesome, and I'll explain a little bit more about this, but basically if you're struggling to get in the Menti because you didn't scan it yet, it's also at your tables. So now, without further ado, I would like to introduce the panelists. Thank you guys for coming out today and giving us some of your time. We really appreciate it. First here is Jay Bakerink. He is an Emmy-nominated producer, the president and co-founder of Highlet Entertainment and Marketing. Haylet, my apologies. He's also a golf enthusiast and has a dog named Mr. Higgins. Next up, we have Phoenix Ha. She is the CEO of AdBeacon, which is an optimization platform. She's a CLU grad, just like many of us will be, hopefully soon, of 2016, as well as an EMBA grad in 2022. Some fun facts about Phoenix is that she was a 2-year professional hip-hop dancer, as well as being a model for 12 years during her time at CLU. Next up, we have Sophie Harlan. She is the director of football operations for the Los Angeles Rams. She studied at UCLA and 2 years ago was a Super Bowl winner. One thing that's interesting about her journey is her first year with the LA Rams was their first year back in LA. So that's pretty neat that, you know, in a way you kind of brought the team back to LA. So, and lastly but not least, David Harrington. He's a partner and wealth advisor at the Hillcrest Financial Group. He is a former sales director at Amgym, and just like all of us in Phoenix, well, all of us hopefully soon, was a CLU grad in 1996. One of his greatest passions is the game of golf, especially spending that time with his two sons. So we're really appreciative that you guys are here with us tonight, and we're going to get into some questions now.
So our first question is for the audience. We'd like to get your opinion on how many of you have changed your major or career path while in college. So if you guys could answer that. Wow, so it's almost like 50%. 37 people said yes and 41 people said no. And so we're really going to want to get the opinions of our panelists on how sometimes changing your career path can be a good thing. And yeah, so we're just going to get into the first question. Oh. So our first question for the panelists is, how did your earlier career choices lead you to where you are now? So whoever can go first.
Can you guys hear me? No. I can project, so that could be easier. I don't think there's a button. All right, I will project. So, up on what? Button on the top. Button on the top. Hold it down. Is that better? No. Hello. All right. So I was supposed to be a doctor. I'm not a doctor, clearly, and it was the best move I ever made. I was in pre-med, the Shep Pep program at CSUN. I failed all my classes. I was a dancer, like in my soul. My mom's here, so it's great. She's gone through the whole trauma of it, but we're here now. And I ditched classes to go dance. I knew what I wanted to do. And at that time, I failed everything and I thought I was dumb. I literally thought I didn't have a brain to use. And I was gonna drop out. I didn't know what I was gonna feel. And I had a tragedy happen. And it was the worst and best thing for me because I ended up coming home. I went to Moore Park College. And before that, the last class I ever took at CSUN was an econ class, a macro econ class. It was the first class that I understood at all. Like, I was like, oh, this is common sense. And right then and there, I went, I'm gonna go into business. And this is something completely different than anybody in my family. And in doing so, my career, my interest, my love for life excelled. So I think it's nice that a lot of you, well, whatever. It's nice that most of you didn't change, which is interesting. But for those of you who have the courage to change, or if you're set in your ways, that's fine too. But just think about that as well, because the trajectory of your career can change at any point in time, and that's okay. There you go.
All right, I'll go next. Similarly, I went to UCLA. I started off as undecided, because I really didn't know. I thought I wanted to work for a fashion magazine. I'm wearing a men's t-shirt, and Jordan and Sharon can both say that I wear mostly men's clothes at my job and at home too. So obviously fashion was not the thing for me. Similarly, I found football because I needed a job. I needed to pay for school. So I started working at UCLA, and I found football and absolutely fell in love. also stopped going to classes. Don't recommend, by the way, but just to go to work. And ended up being able to graduate. I was going to enough classes, apparently, to pass all my classes. But really then spent a couple years working any job under the sun that would pay my bills so I could also work to pay to work in football. So the next couple of years for you guys may be a huge struggle, and that's okay. And you don't want to hear that right now. You want to probably be like, oh, this chick doesn't know what she's talking about, which is fine. And you're not going to want to hear it in a year if you're struggling either. But in 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, you're going to look back, and the struggle right after college to kind of launch into the career that you want eventually, and it may not be the career you want today, is so worth it because it makes you a little bit scrappy, it gives you that grit, and it allows for when really hard things happen in life for you to work through it. So similarly, whether it's a career change or a change in your major, it's uber important to embrace those things and be okay with it and make sure that you're passionate about it. Not your parents, not your grandparents, not your significant other, that it's your passion, because ultimately you don't want to get to be my age and be old and hate what you do, right? And then have to make a career change. And you can too then, but do that now. Go explore, feel things out, and make a lot, get all those transferable skills from lots of different things so that you can go dominate in any space or any industry. Oh, yours works now.
I think so.
Use your air.
So I'll talk a little bit more about in the professional realm, change in course. So when I graduated here, so I played football 4 years and I was a biology major, and I was going to go be a doctor. Took the MCAT, didn't do great on it, and decided I wanted to go start making some money, and I got a job at Amgen. I was very fortunate and worked there for the next 16 years. And I think what you have to realize is you have to learn your gift. You have to learn what you're good at. You have to learn what you love, and you got to go through those struggles to figure that out. And so I started in the manufacturing realm, making products at Amgen, and then I figured out I'm good at, there's one little thing I'm kind of going towards, and so I got into sales and marketing, specifically sales, and I was given some wonderful opportunities there, and we moved around the country, and okay, I kind of figured out more of my gift, and then I changed. After 16 years there, I changed and started a 100% commission job becoming a wealth advisor. Like, who's going to do that? But it's because I'd figured out what I enjoyed and kind of what my gift was. And so that's important. I think that's what you got to go through. And that's part of that struggle will allow you to be that much greater and better on the other side.
My turn. Can you hear me? Okay. My path was kind of like when I was basically a 10, 11-year-old kid, I kind of knew what I wanted to do from day one and kind of went for it. I was that kid that was in a movie theater and would look at a movie and look at a special effect and go, God, I wonder how they did that. Or I would see a stunt and I go, I wonder how the stunt coordinator did that. So I wanted to get into film production. I wanted to get into television production. And for me, so I enrolled at USC Film School, got accepted, went there for 4 years, and then upon graduation, everybody that was in my class or everybody, they wanted to be either a director or they wanted to be a producer or they wanted to be a writer. I kind of wanted to go more into the television world. I wanted to learn more about television. So there was this program at NBC called the PAGE program. And a PAGE program is basically, you can only be a PAGE for 18 months, and believe it or not, to be a PAGE, you have to have a college degree. And I think at the time there was 3,000 students that for every 3,000 applicants every 3 months were applying for 20 positions. I was fortunate to get a position there, and the reason why I went for that is because when you're a PAGE in a network, you're kind of like an intern for like 18 months. It's like a paid internship. And you go work a month for press and publicity, and then you go work a month for programming, or you go work a month for standards and practices. For me, I got my first 6 months of my assignment, I sat in a makeup room with the guy that was the star of The Tonight Show called Johnny Carson. Anybody here know who Johnny Carson is? Mm-hmm. Jimmy Kimmel, who's The Late Show. For before Jimmy Kimmel, it was Jay Leno, and before Jay Leno, it was Johnny Carson. Anyways, it was through that experience being at NBC, I was introduced, one of my assignments was on-air promotion. In an on-air promotion, they do all the on-air marketing for all the shows. I was there when they were doing The Cosby Show, LA Law, Amazing Stories of Steven Spielberg. Anyways, it was that 18-month experience that I had there, working in a little department, where I found a love for entertainment marketing, doing promos, doing trailers for shows. And that's basically kind of like, that led me on to my next step, which is going on and leaving NBC after a while, going to work for Fox Broadcasting. I got involved, I launched, anybody here know the show The Simpsons? Mm-hmm. The Simpsons? I created the whole marketing campaign for The Simpsons back in the 1990, 1991. And I realized, for me, working on a show, how could it, for a career, a lot of my friends were working on shows that they would go work on a show and that show would get canceled, and then they had to go hustle to find another job. I wanted to see how can I get my skills as a writer, producer, director, and work on the show, and even if it got canceled, I would still have a show to work on. And that was entertainment marketing. So if the show you're working on got canceled, you just got put onto another show. So for me, every step in my career led me to where I am now, where I have my own production company and marketing company. And everything that I've done has led me to what I have now. My production company has an animation that's on Disney right now called Piney, Lonesome Pine. Anybody seen it? Okay, my branding's not too good then on that, then is it? Holy cow. Well, it was the #1 animation on Disney this last Christmas. It's now in 70 countries and dubbed in 7 different languages. I tell you that because leading up to that, I would not be here with my own production company had I not had all those steps to get to me where I am today.
Thank you all for your responses. We really enjoyed hearing all of your unique stories and how it led you to where you are now. I'm going to go on to the next question. Have any of you ever experienced imposter syndrome? And if so, how did you overcome it?
Every day. I'm the youngest person up here. However, and I'm very humbled, by the way. These are some really cool people up here, guys. But I got thrown into my career at a very young age, and I had to make very big decisions. And my first big job was the marketing director of a global $40 million brand called Supra Footwear. I don't know if anyone's familiar. It's a skate brand. Mm-hmm. My roots are in skate, so. But anyway, they're like, all right, here's a budget of X million dollars. Where are you going to put it? And I'm like, huh? I don't even know where I put my own money, let alone your money. And I believe that imposter syndrome is only whether or not your willingness is to step up or step out. Okay? You've been put in a place for a purpose, and that's what I tell myself every day. And because of that, all those barriers and all those walls, they come down. So imposter syndrome is your own brain telling you you can't do something. So you either step up or you step out. And I decided to step up, and things have worked really well for me. Things have not worked well for me, but things have also just progressed. So that's my answer, but it's hopefully a motivational one for you guys.
So imposter syndrome, I think that's, so first of all, everybody has that, right? All that is a fancy way of saying insecure. And all of us go through bouts of insecurity, right? Depending upon, maybe there's something you're really good at and you feel a little bit more bold about it. But it's just head trash you gotta get rid of. And you gotta find out what is that for you, what's your spinach if you're Popeye, what's your kryptonite if you're Superman, like what is it that either helps or hurts you? And just, you know, so some of that's going to be constantly learning, you know, getting in front of other people that are better than you and humbling yourself and just learning and learning and learning. And eventually, even just via osmosis, you're going to get better. And so, you know, I think that's just, you got to, and also you have to know that everybody feels that way too. You think it's just you, but it's not. And so the sooner you realize everybody's scared, everybody's trying to get better, everybody's feeling that way, then you're able to move by it and make progress.
I like the head trash comment. That's a good one. I think both of your points, yes, everyone deals with that, right? I think the how to overcome it. I think the thing that we really focus on at the Rams are two things, right? We ask questions. We don't just shrink back and just go try to figure it out by ourselves. We ask questions. We have a very diverse staff, and mainly the important thing there is that diversity of thought, right? So that, hey, maybe I think of this in one way, but somebody else thinks of it in a completely different way. And maybe that way is actually the path to the solution, right? So we ask a lot of questions. And also we always lean into, we take big risks at the Rams, but we also do it with always the best intention of the organization first. And so if you're making a decision that isn't based solely on you, but is based solely or on the organization or whatever, the group, your group project, and that's the focus, right? You can't ever be so far off that you can't go course correct. If you're making it solely based on you, that's where you get into a big problem, right? But if you can overcome that own thing with, hey, I know that this, or I think, maybe I don't know, I think this is the best decision for our group or our organization or our team, then very rarely are you going to be so far off that things go completely haywire. So that's a good way of kind of overcoming some of those, feelings of insecurity and imposter syndrome.
I never really had imposter syndrome. I never really did. I mean, there were certain things in my career where I wish they happened quicker than what they did. I always had, the thing about me is somebody told me no, that basically lit a fire underneath my butt. That every no that I got made me stronger and stronger. And I've fought for everything I've had in my career, and I've never once felt that I wasn't worthy of it. But there were absolutely times where you were, and when you're in the midst of things and you have a lot of competition around you, and the insecurities do rise up. But I never ever felt I had to work for it, and I felt I had to work my butt off for it. But I never ever felt that I wasn't worthy of it.
Thank you guys for all sharing and being that kind of being vulnerable to the fact that even as professionals in your industries, maybe that imposter syndrome does still kind of come about. As college students, I think it's pretty common to deal with imposter syndrome because we're learning these different things, but it's not necessarily that we are doing them in a professional setting and then taking those skills to the workplace. We've learned them, but we haven't done them. So I think it's something that y'all's vulnerability is very much appreciated because we can relate to it. Which brings me to my next question. It's actually for the students. How prepared do you feel for the workforce? Kind of goes in line with what we've been talking about.
Teach the rest of us. You know what you want to do. You dominated it. Just teach the rest of us. We'll just listen.
All right, well, we appreciate y'all's responses. I'm pleased to see that, half of us feel prepared and the other half of us, just know that belief, you will get there. Just believe in yourself and keep on going, keep on pushing, and it'll all work out. My next question for the panelists is going to be, what is one thing that you look for when either hiring or moving to a new company? And this is more specifically directed for Phoenix and David.
I've been going first the whole time.
No, Phoenix and David.
Oh, Phoenix. Oh, I'm so sorry. Hi, you go first.
So I guess relative to maybe on the hiring side of things, so obviously it's going to be specific to whatever dominant skill set is going to make that individual or that position be that much more successful. You're going to be looking for that. If it's an analytical role, if it's a communication role, you're going to focus on that. But if I had to just give you a general stab at it, I'd say three things. The first one is authenticity. Individuals that are real, genuine. I mean, that's life. And so I always say, you got to be real with yourself. You got to be able, at the end of the day, pass the red face test when you look in the mirror. And when you're working with people, you just got to be genuine and real. So that's number one. Number two is integrity. And that's obviously about, you know, doing what's right and striving to do what's right and doing what you say you'll do. Easier said than done, or maybe not. Maybe that's how you're hardwired. And then the last piece is emotional intelligence. So there is so much, I mean, you can go into careers where it doesn't matter how you say it, it's all about just numbers and data. And so if you're hardwired that way, go in that direction. But I will tell you, there is so much to life that is how you communicate and how you look at people and how you listen to people and how you know when to speak and not speak that will get you so much further regardless of what you know.
I love what you said, because if I were to interview with you, I'd be like, I want to go there. That's exactly, that honestly, that is how I align. I'm going to speak to more of the moving to a new company, since he spoke to hiring. And for me, I have come from multiple agencies. So if you're in marketing, there is the agency side, and then there's behind the brand side, which is, you know, in-house. And you get ringed out for all the energy that you have. You guys are in a position where you come into the workforce, so the graph was supposed to be up there. You come into the workforce, right, and you're excited and you get your first salary position or whatever it is that you have, and they will ring you out because you have the most energy. You're so excited, and I don't want you to lose that hunger by me saying this, but in that process, I was wrung out. And when I'm, you know, where I am now, and even the position I had before, I really aligned and said, okay, who do I want to surround myself with when it comes to mentorship? What are their pillars? Who are they? You know, not the whole, you know, these are our core values and they're reading off a list. No, really read the person as if you're sitting there one-on-one and hanging out. Do you want to surround yourself with this person? It's very true with your friend group as much as it is with your career, because I spend more time with people I work with than I do with my friends and my family. And I want to be able to sit there and look at David and go, I really align with his values. Because if I don't align with his values, I'm going to hate my job, and I'm going to be resentful, and I'm not going to give 110% each day. So as I'm moving to a new company, there are pillars that I have within the season of my life. And those pillars right now, again, are integrity. It's also, what am I doing for others? Are they doing for others as well in the same way? And a lot of it is transparency, which goes along the lines with integrity too, but transparency is really big for me. I work in data. Just because you work in data does not mean that people are transparent. So I would say when I'm moving to a new company, aligning those key core values, truly those pillars, and who you surround yourself with is just as important, you know, in your personal life as your career as well.
Thank you for that advice. I feel like as students, it's important to hear what you guys are looking for and how to move to a new company and be confident in those steps. So thank you. This next question is directed towards Jay and Sophie. We would like to know, what advice would you give for building your brand?
Okay, I'll go first. See, how can I best describe? How many people here have seen a commercial, and at the end of that commercial, you have no idea what the product is? Raise your hand if people that have seen that, right? So not only that is that a waste of money, but it's not really representing your brand. This last Super Bowl, the Super Bowl for a 30-second spot, just to place it, was $7 million. And there was probably about 3 or 4 spots in that Super Bowl. At the end of it, I thought, man, that was really a waste of money, because at the end of it, you really couldn't tell what the commercial was about. In entertainment marketing, when I was training junior producers to come up in the ranks to edit a trailer, a lot of them were so good at editing. And I would see like a trailer or a 30 or 60-second spot, and in that 60-second spot, there was probably about 50, 60 cuts. So much so where I felt like I was going to have an epileptic seizure at the end of it. And I would tell these guys, listen, I know you can edit, but can you tell a story? Take that craft and tell your story, but tell it in, be true to your brand. Tell it in the most simple, most innovative way that you can. And I think what happens with a lot of people is there's a lot of creative people out there, but they try to be too creative as opposed to try to tell the story at its simplest term as what is the brand. And I think that's the most important thing, is that you have to be innovative, but be creative, but keep it simple and be true to your brand.
So this is my second least favorite question. My first is, what is work-life balance? But I will tell you guys this. I also think there is so much merit in all of your brands, right? But there's also so much merit right now, especially where you're at just putting your head down and going to work. And don't be silly on all the places that you can be silly these days, right? Don't put yourself in bad situations, but focus less on you and your brand and more on what you're giving to the brand that you're trying to work within, or to the people around you, or to your community, right? Those are the things at your age that are so important. I had a mentor a long time ago, and in football, we're still working through this, but he said, if you love what you do, if you work really hard, the titles and the money will come, right? And that's when I was a director, making $32,000 a year, living in the Bay Area. So I was in debt. And I was working a second job from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. to try to be able to pay to be a director at Cal, okay? So still waiting for all those things to come, but that's a different story. But I never was focused on myself, right? I was focused on the team. I was focused on making Cal football the best it could possibly be. And that's what got me this job, right? I got a random phone call from our team president. I didn't know who he was, which is embarrassing now. But I got a random phone call and asked to come work for them simply because he had heard about me from people that I had no idea were talking about me. And I had spent 0 time worried about my brand. So if you go and you put your head down and you work and you are a good human and you make good connections and you impress people, even if you don't know that you're impressing them, they will talk about you in rooms that you do not know they're talking about you in. And that type of brand building is so much more important than the perfect LinkedIn page or a curated Instagram, or whatever my niece calls her Instagram right now. It's so much more important. So I think, like, as focused as you guys can be on those things, like, just put your head down and do the work for a while. And your brand will become naturally. And then you can do all the, like, fancy things.
Those were really good responses from the both of you. Thank you so much. Our next question is for the audience. It's a short answer question. We would like to know, what are your guys' biggest challenges and obstacles?
I think we're seeing some common themes in some of the answers revolving around balance, finding enough time to get started, and just kind of starting in general. Getting your foot in the door can definitely be a daunting task, and I think that we're seeing this through the responses. With that being said, you guys can continue to pour your thoughts into this. I would like to ask the question to the panelists: what do you think the future obstacles are in your career, or if you don't want to talk about in your career, in your industry?
Well, I'll give 2 real quick. I think in my industry, actually in life, many times the least common denominator, or somebody that makes a mistake, sets the rule across the board, and everybody has to abide by that rule. And so sometimes it's good, and sometimes it gets a little tough. So I would just say, relative to our industry, it's regulation. So you want obviously investors to be protected, but it's important to keep flexibility in there and just make sure it doesn't stifle everything. So it's probably regulation. You could probably put that in a lot of places too. I just say one comment also about think about how fortunate we are to have the internet and social media and how awesome that is, how much more productive we are, how we stay in touch with families, friends. But I would say relative to items to worry about, it's a little bit of that. Like, you can't make a mistake, otherwise everybody knows it. And we're all humans and we're all allowed to make a mistake, but so you got to be careful with that because, you know, I don't know, that just cuts both ways. And so somehow to be able to get all the efficiency out of it, but not, you know, be able to still be human and make a mistake. So,
to David's point, guys, I'm on social media. I'm on all social media, okay? The best decision I ever made was to limit my life and what you know about me on social media, okay? I mean that. Please, 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 I mean that. No one needs to know your business. They just need to know what you want them to know, okay? It's really simple. And don't be disingenuous. Be yourself. That's not what I mean. But what I mean by that is you never know who's going to look you up. And luckily, if you look me up, you won't find much other than my career. And I did that on purpose, right? And I think that's what's fostered really great relationships in my personal life and also any of the mistakes that I may have made when I was younger, which we all make. In response to the question, so I'm really glad you brought that up. In response to your question, and what I'm seeing here is balance and breakthrough and a lot of that. Right now, I'm in the probably most uncomfortable part of my career ever. And it's because I built a business called AdBeacon. We're an ad optimization platform, which some of you might understand and some of you might not, which is fine. There are only about 4 major competitors in my field. That is pretty incredible because no other field that I know of only has that many competitors, and they're not that big. Right now, I need to make a point that we're in the space, and within 1 year, we're in the conversation with companies that have been around for 3 to 4 years. It's a big deal to even be in the conversation. So for all of you who wrote breakthrough, getting your foot in the door, self-doubt, all of that, I'm right there with you. I have to, and I'm the only female in my space talking about first-party data, okay? So I guess my point is that we're all in this together, and those limitations are only temporary, because if I was bound by that thought too that you're going through right now, I wouldn't be able to move forward, right? You have the fortunate ability to be as young as you are and then break through and make mistakes. So I just want to say, look, those thoughts, those insecurities, they're normal. I would encourage you to push past them, because I have to do that too right now.
Well, for me, as a producer for original programming, the obstacles that I face is basically saturation. I don't know, on any given day when you watch a television show, whether it's on ABC, CBS, Bravo, ESPN, CNN, at any given day, you got about 4,000 choices. There's about 4,000 programs that you can watch at any given time. So the key is how do you stand out? How do you separate yourself and become noticed? So saturation is a big problem in being able to create a program where you're going to be able to stand out and just get maybe a little slice of the audience. From the entertainment marketing side, I'd say the biggest obstacle is the same thing, basically where technology has gotten to a point to where anybody can do anything. Like, you can edit, you can make music, you can do graphics, and so there's a lot of competition that a lot of people can do things very cheaply and very effectively out of their own home. But again, I think the obstacle is that there's so many, because of that technology, there's so many people doing it now. You've got to be able to find a way where you're very innovative and it gets back to the brand where you're very true to yourself.
I think in sports and NFL specifically, we have a true challenge with diversity and inclusion. And I think it's very well known, but I think it will continue to be a challenge. The fact that I'm a female in my role was absolutely unheard of until about 4 years ago, right? The fact that there's, I think, 3 African American head coaches right now in a league where primarily all of, or not all, but the vast majority of players are African American, right, is a huge challenge. And I think that that's something that we all have a huge responsibility to take on and set the path for the people behind us. And we can inch closer every day, but I think it's a big thing that the NFL, has to face. And I think that we are. And I think that probably the progress being made isn't always as fast as any of us would like. But, next week I go to the Combine and I'll be speaking at a women's forum with my coordinator, who's an African-American female who attended the women's forum and is an absolute superstar will be in our industry. When I started in football, I just hoped that no one noticed I was a woman, right? There wasn't a women's forum. So I think that we are making progress, but I think it's a consistent issue, and it'll continue to be a challenge in all professional sports, but especially in the NFL because we are the biggest stage.
Thank you all for sharing the future obstacles within your industry and also kind of paralleling the gap to maybe some challenges that we face as college students to maybe obstacles that y'all are facing now. Along with that, I feel like we almost have a responsibility. You guys have presented us with the challenges, so maybe one day we can be a part of the answer. So for our next little segment, I want to first thank you panelists all for the questions that we have prepared for y'all. But the audience, it's your turn. If any of y'all has any questions that you would like to ask to any of our panelists, now is the time. We have about 20 minutes aside for this, so ask away, and Abby will run over to you if you put your hand up with the mic. Just make sure you introduce yourself, say your name, and what panelist you have the question for. So.
My name's Kennedy. I have a question for Sophie. Thanks for being here. A big question of mine is, what would you do differently if you could in the trajectory of your career? Like, what steps would you have taken differently, or I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Well, we only have 20 minutes, so no, just kidding. I'm big on trying not to look backwards, right? And I know that sounds cliche, but truly, there's a million things I would have done differently. I probably would have tried to negotiate more than $32,000 to live in San Francisco. But truly, honestly, each one of those things led me to the next piece, right? And just like Jay talked about with all of he's known what he's wanted to do since he was 11. He's sitting in movie theaters, but every single step took him to the next place, right? So I think we all make mistakes. I make mistakes daily, but you can't dwell on those. You have to push forward, right? And so if you're in something that you really can't stand, me in 2013, I took some time off. I took a year kind of to figure out if I wanted to stay in football because we had gotten fired, and I was like, this really sucks. Everyone gets fired when the head coach gets fired. Why would I do this for the rest of my life, right? And I was working in a sports agency, which I thought was like my dream job, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I knew immediately I wanted to get out. But I think if you talk to that agent today, she'll still say I was probably the best assistant she ever had for 6 months, right? Because I worked so hard every single day to show up and be the absolute best I could be for her, even though I knew I never want to do that job ever again. So don't worry about making mistakes. Don't worry about landing in a role that you're like, oh, this is not for me. Go dominate it, absolutely crush it, and then figure your exit strategy, And instead of being worried about those steps being the wrong things or setting you back, just keep pushing forward, absolutely be a good human, dominate in the space, and then figure out your next step. But don't worry about all those things that you wished you had done differently.
Hi, my name is Leilani. I was wondering, Phoenix, you kind of talked a little bit about this, but how do you guys keep your motivation when you're in trying times in your workplace?
Yeah, that's a great question. Everybody here and everybody there has gone through a lot in their lives, right? And I always have this joke with my family and my friends that when things go really well, a tsunami hits, and I'm serious. Like, it's not like a little thing that happens, a lot of things happen. And I always think of it like this, and I love how everyone said be a good human. I genuinely believe the only thing you owe this world is to be a good person. And if you do that and you keep your head down and you work really hard, it will pass. Like anything in your life, personal, career-wise, it will pass. You know, I sit with my fiance every day and I'm like, tomorrow we could be homeless and in a, you know, cardboard box, and I'm happy because I'm with you. You know, that is what motivates me during tough times, who I surround myself with, etc. So I really would encourage you to think of it more so of like, instead of anticipating bad times, because they're going to happen regardless, just knowing that if you keep your head down, it will pass and good things will come as well. I hope that answers your question.
Hello, my name's Yvette, and my question is regarding this kind of culture of quietly quitting and the idea that you don't have to commit to 3-4 years or even 10 years to a company. I just kind of want to hear the panel's overall opinion about like what loyalty to a company means in this kind of era that we're in now, post-COVID, or like outside of the remote work of COVID. Like, does it still matter to give a company years of your life, or is it go to the to the best bidder, whoever gives you the best benefits, and leave when you can?
I have a hot take on this one, so you go first.
Very strong opinions here. Loyalty in football does not exist, but it truly matters to me. I told someone the other day, this young woman who has reached out to me for a few years, and I said, you're not going to want to hear this, but you need to stay your ass where you're at. Jumping from job to job for, sorry, I cuss like a sailor. I apologize if that offended anyone. Jumping from job to job for a little bit more money or a slightly higher title, that to me is the biggest red flag when hiring. And the bigger problem with it is that you don't get to see how you influence and impact change in that organization. And so you have no understanding if your thoughts, your ideas, the things that you put into place actually work. You put them in, you left for $5,000 more and a little bit of a title bump, and you're happy, right? But then you don't actually get to see if all of your ideas actually come to fruition what you thought that they would. So especially in our industry, like that is a huge red flag for me. And again, I'm looking for those we not me type people, right? The people that care more about the Rams brand than their own brand. So if it's a jump here every 8 months, a year and a half, like that for me personally is a humongous red flag.
So I would just say dominate in the space you're at. I mean, so that is so true. So wherever you are, if it's a bad situation or you think you could do it better elsewhere, you have to be able to have that chapter of your life or that story you got to finish it strong so that when you move on, you're proud of it. So nobody goes to the best job right out of the gate. And so maybe if you're really talented or good opportunities come around, you can jump around, but that's going to run short real quick if you don't establish your brand as a hard worker, as a we, not me. And so each chapter has to have a good story too. So when you tell the story, it has to make sense. So kind of making the most of each place before you leave.
That's good. I'm gonna answer your question with a story, and I'll make it as quick as possible. And I hope all of you hear this because I know some of you have this mentality, and I'm gonna nip this in the bud real quick. Okay? I'm very direct. Sorry. I had a person come onto my team. He was young. He never went to college, and I will never say no to someone who didn't go to college, but when you do go to college, it says a lot about your grit. That's literally what it says to me, at least, as an employer. And he had to work harder, right? So right away he joins the team, super young, gets a pretty great salary for what it is, and you also get compensated commission-wise based off of what you bring in. So a lot of what we do is ad spend. The more you increase the ad spend, the more percentage you get out, right? So you'll do the percentage of math there, some really great dollars. He joined on the team, within 3 months asked me for a raise. Normally I would say kick rocks, but I told him, you know what, I've seen a lot of output, here's a plan. I gave him a full plan, Everything was beautiful. He also got mentorship, which was the key. He got something that he didn't have before in his previous role, right? He just had an agency that ringed him out, like I told you guys, and then just spit him out. He came into our agency, I gave him this full plan, and the minute I dropped the plan down, and mind you, it was a lot of work, he dipped out because that old agency came and gave him a $100,000 flat salary. Okay. If he had just read the plan, he would have made 150 to 200K in 6 months. That doesn't matter, okay? I just got a text message from him a week ago begging for his job back and also sad that he doesn't have mentorship. A lot of you guys are gonna smirk and smile at this, but you're gonna put yourself in that position. You don't know what you're gonna do until you get money thrown in your face. There's a lot of Silicon Valley money going around, okay? And startup money, where they're gonna throw a lot of money at you. You have to make a decision. Do I wanna surround myself with the right people and the mentorship, or do I want to go after money? And this goes to the hopping the job situation, right? So he's hopping jobs. So now on his resume, it says 6 months here, 8 months here. And the question I would ask him and goes, and I'm sorry, I'm very brutally honest, is do you not like challenge? Like, are you risk averse? And most people are like, no, I'm super into risk. No, you're risk averse because you left when things got tough. And I don't want a family member, I don't want to sit next to somebody who just dips out on me when things get tough. Okay? So I would think of it like that. I wouldn't think about it like loyalty. You don't owe any company loyalty. But you do owe yourself just like the longevity of your career to see it
out. For me, what motivates me, I would say gratitude. Gratitude is what really motivates me in everything that I do. I mean, there's a lot of times, and there's going to be a lot of times in your guys' careers where you're going to have to take 2 steps backwards before you take that 1 leap forward. And what a lot of these guys were saying is that, you know, don't chase the money. As tempting as it is, find what it is that you truly love to do. And as cliche as it sounds, once you find that and you dig your nose into it, the money's going to come and the title will come. And if you're, but along the way, just stay humble. And for me, what's helped me motivate me on a daily basis is I'm just very thankful and I have a lot of gratitude for what I have and what I've accomplished in my life. That's what motivates me.
Next question.
My name's Jacob, and I have a question for Mr. Harrington. To my understanding, you didn't start off your career in sales, and I was kind of just wondering what led you to shifting your career into a sales position.
So before I answer that, I just want to comment on the gratitude piece. So that is the linchpin to life. I'm telling you, the ability to, when the going gets tough and you're stressed, this is what I do, getting ready to give a big talk or a big meeting, but you just stop and go, I'm here right now, I got people around me, I got somebody that loves me, a family, but it takes all the pressure away of life. It just does when you are intentionally in the moment, which is hard to do because we get caught up in the rat race. So yeah, I wasn't in sales, I was in manufacturing, and I talked about learning your gift. And so I started to learn what I was good at, and ultimately it's coaching people, it's helping people. And so I started doing that. And so I went through an introductory realm into the sales realm. Was a program Amgen had that, 6 years later I ran the program, which was really cool to give back and help out other people that wanted to do that and get into that realm. But you're right, I wasn't, and then I got into sales, and and have leveraged that since.
By the way, the only successful people in sales are people who are genuine like him. Because whenever someone tells me they're in sales, I get very like, because they have it's a bad rep, right? And rap. But you're very genuine, which is why I believe you're so successful in it, because you lead with gratitude, you lead with relationships. So I think that speaks volumes. I just had to say that for those of you going into sales. Think about that, please.
And we have time for one more question if one more individual wants to ask something.
Hi, my name is Princessa. I just wanted to know, I guess for the panel, who was your mentors or someone that just created like a defining moment in your lives?
Okay, I'll start.
Go first. Yeah, you had a good
I got a good one. So, so I told you about when I started my career, I was in the makeup room for 6 months with Johnny Carson. And when Johnny Carson would come in, I was the page that I ushered in all the talent. I mean, I saw everybody. I saw all the music bands that you could think of, all the rock and roll, all the movie stars, anybody that was anybody that was the person to see, I saw. And when I was a 21, 22-year-old, I was really intimidated by these big stars. I wouldn't want to go up to them because I thought, you know, maybe I wasn't as good as they were. I was really intimidated. But so, Johnny Carson told me something that really just kind of like put it on level ground to me. He said, Jay, what's the one thing that intimidates you the most? I said, going up and talking to these big celebrities. He said, let me tell you something. He said, all these people, I don't care who they are, and excuse my language, they eat, drink, and shit just like you and I do. They're no different. They're no different than you and I. They just have little different opportunities than we do. So when he told me that one day when he told me that, changed my whole attitude on how I dealt with people. It just changed it completely.
They put their pants on one leg at a time too.
Yeah, that's true.
I've had many great mentors. Unfortunately, I've had a lot of head coaches that didn't care that I was a female, again, before it was okay to be a female in football. But I think the big piece is to find mentorship that's truly genuine and authentic and people who actually care about you on a human level. I've been a mentor now, and it always hasn't, been the best fit, right? And sometimes that's because I think that person just wants all the answers, right? And they don't want to actually lean in and learn about the things that are going to be super challenging for them and the things they just want, here's the answer and the pathway to success, right? So it doesn't always have to be somebody who's owns their own companies or is dealing with huge wealth management, right? You can find mentorship even amongst each other, and do go find those big time folks too. But I think when you're selecting a mentor, when you're looking for mentors, really find people who are genuinely invested in you as a person. And they don't just want to be able to say, oh, hey, look at this young person who is now successful, I mentored them, but they want to pour into you. And I think that I was super lucky to have people along the way and still have people that really wanted to pour into me and wanted me to be successful in my job, in my family, all of those things, right? And cared about me on a really intense human level. So go find people like that. That's the most important thing I think about mentorship.
Yeah, I've just had a lot and been fortunate, and just try to appreciate those around you that have given you that and given you that time, and respecting them for it and giving them credit after you've gone through it. It's truly a gift, right? And you'll actually learn some from mentors that aren't any good. You'll learn what not to be like, and that's okay too. That's a gift. But I've been very fortunate and had a lot of people that have helped me out. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys for the great questions. And I actually want to follow up with...
No, it's great.
Totally
You're great.
Oh, my apologies.
Great, you're great.
No, I'm sorry. Well, my next question will be directed at you then, Phoenix. What I wanted to ask, because all of you being professionals in your industry, I'm sure that you all have had the experience to mentor other people. If someone was approaching you looking for a mentor, seeking a mentor, how would you feel valued in that relationship as someone maybe providing the advice? How would you recommend someone in our shoes make sure we treat you to make that genuine, I guess?
I would say
pose it with another question. How many of you guys have had conversations with people that have asked you for advice and they listened to you and they never took it? Okay, thank you. So if you're asking me to be a mentor, that doesn't mean you need to do what I say. I do want you to test it. I do want you to tell me what you thought about it, and did anything happen from it? Actionable mentorship is so important to me. Otherwise, we're just friends. And we can be friends, you know, that develops over time. But I'm here for a purpose. I will pour 150% into you if you actually receive the information I'm giving you. That doesn't mean I'm always right. It just, that's the relationship, right? So for me to feel valued, for me to know that my time is being spent in a person who really truly values that time, just like you want a text message from me going, hey, how was your day? Anything you're going through right now? It needs to be reciprocated with actions.
I think maybe not as much mentors, but even just networking, right? You guys all know the importance of that. I think ask for time, don't ask for a job. I get thousands of resumes. I want to work in football. I'll do anything to work in football. All I want to do is work for the Rams, right? Any young person that I talk to, if I haven't logged into my LinkedIn in like over 2 years, so not on LinkedIn, but if they actually get to my email, I try to give them time. And maybe it's at 5:30 when I'm driving into the facility. Maybe it's on the way to a home game, hotel stay. I don't know when it's going to be, probably inconvenient for them, but it is when it is. But I know that they want to work in football, right? I know that. They want to work in all of your businesses, all of our businesses, right? Don't ask for a job. We know that. We know that. That comes, if you're between 20 and 25, you probably want to work in that industry, right? Ask for time. Come up with 2 or 3 killer questions. Questions where you're like, damn, that was a good question. I'm impressed with my own question, right? Because in 6 months, when we have an internship open or the Eagles call me and they have an internship open, I'm gonna go think about the kid who asked me a killer question that actually made me think about it after our conversation and that I love the conversation with. Not the one that said, I'll do anything to work in football, how do I work for you, right? So not so much mentorship, but networking. It's uber important. I'm terrible at it. But ask for time. Don't ask for a job. Everyone understands you want a job. Everyone wants a job. But really impress them with 2 or 3 questions. And again, maybe that phone call is at 5:30 in the morning. Maybe it's for 15 minutes. Maybe they love you and you talk for an hour. Who knows, right? But ask for time because that will reap so many benefits down the road. And you may not know when, right? It might not be right away. It might be 2 years later. But I promise you it will help.
And I would just say, make a connection. Find a way to make a connection with that person that you're trying to be mentored by. Because if you make a connection and they feel a certain way, they're going to be more apt to want to buy in and help you out. And so somehow find a way to have an authentic connection, not a cheesy one that sounds right, but like an authentic connection, and then be efficient with their time because everybody's busy, right? I mean, everybody's busy, blah, blah, and even if you're not busy, you're busy. And as you get older, you're going to have less and less free time. And so when you're trying to have mentors give you some time, know that they're busy, so you got to find a way to be creative and build the connection, establish the connection, find an efficient way to make that work.
Let's see. For me, I've actually mentored a lot of people in the entertainment marketing business, young editors trying to come up to want to edit trailers or promos or do a branding campaign for a show. And the one thing that I tell them is that, like David was saying, be authentic, but also be willing to put the work in. There's a lot of people that, you know, they say you want to be mentored, but they're really, you can tell that they don't want to put the work in. If you really are ready to put the work in, and the biggest thing is always ask why. Why are you doing this? Why is this the way it's always been done? Why? Because there's a lot of whys that turn into a lot of great new innovative things. So I think the thing about, for me, to mentor somebody, I just love to see them ask the question why, and basically I can tell if they're if you're really willing to put the work in.
I'd also like to announce that we will be holding a Career and Intern Expo on March 8th, Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. This will be at the Spine, and it's a great way to start getting your pieces ready for interviews and job applications.
Today is our Career and Intern Expo. It is our largest event of the year, and we're really excited. A lot of companies, a lot of students get together, and they're recruiting for full-time positions as well as internship opportunities for the summer and next year. It actually brings the companies to them. So not only is it convenient, but instead of them just submitting a resume online and getting lost in the shuffle, they really get an opportunity to network with the hiring managers and with the companies themselves. Putting that face with the resume really gives them an edge on just submitting a resume via online or email. I recommend that every student, every member of CLU that wants to be a part of it, undergraduate, graduate students, every single program, there is something for just about everyone here. So come see us. If you don't get to make it to the Career Expo, come visit our Career Services office where we can help you pursue your purpose.
I'd like to also give a plug to all of the amazing School of Management clubs. There's the Accounting Association, American Marketing Association. We have our president right here, Michael Afadian, if you guys would like to speak to him to learn how to join the club. We also have Business of Sports Club, Delta Sigma Pi. Many of you here from DSP, right? We have the Entrepreneurship Startup CLU Club, Financial Planning Association, Investment Club, Professionals in HR, and Women in Business, which I'm the co-founder and president of, along with Brisa Castaneda back there. If you guys would like to join, please feel free to speak to us. I'd also like to mention a new initiative, which is the CLU School of Management Brand Ambassadors. You could also speak to Brisa Castaneda, Michael Afadian, or I about that. To join, we'll have a link where you could sign up. It's a great way to build your personal brand and also build up your LinkedIn and be ready to enter the job world. In addition, please feel free to follow School of Management on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and get more information on all the events that we're hosting. Okay, first winner for the book and the DVD signed by Jay.
Brian.
Brian, where are you?
Do I remove or close? Remove.
And now for the $50 Chick-fil-A gift cards, and we have 3. Oh, Kate! There you go. Congratulations. Aaron, where are you, Aaron? Okay. Here you go, congrats.
Management swag.
Okay, last thing is School of Management swag.
We don't have it. They have to come to my office.
Matthew. Okay, they have that for you. They have that for you at her office, so you'll have to go to her office and get it. We'll be in touch with you through email.
Okay. Do you want to just close it up?
Okay. All right, well, that was it. Thank you all very much for coming. I hope you all took away an abundance of knowledge that you can make use of. And thank you very much to all of our guest speakers and alum who came and gave us their time today. Thank you.